Welcome back to the neighborhood, boys and girls. Our next guest is Josh Hahn. Josh, welcome to the neighborhood, my man. EXP Realtor helped one of my really good friends, my family friends, know his dad forever, buy a house. We're going to get into all that, but first, we always go the backstory. We always like to talk about the journey, because I say the same joke every time. Not many people are in second grade and they say, I want to be a realtor when I grow up. Like, everyone's got a crazy story, and most of them are like waiters or pizza delivery man or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And they got to this, and now they're awesome realtors. So talk a little bit about your journey. How did you get from Josh high school to Josh today?
Yeah, I mean, my story is kind of all over the place. So, I grew up in Ohio.
Okay.
For the most part of my life. My dad was in the Army, so we traveled all over. Family finally settled in Ohio. And when I was 18, I decided I no longer wanted to live on a farm anymore.
I don't think a farm when you say Ohio. When the only thing I know in Ohio is Cleveland. So when you say Ohio, I think Cleveland.
Yeah, when people ask where I grew up, I say between a cornfield and a soybean field, which is the most accurate description of where I grew up.
Yeah.
But that life wasn't the life I wanted to live. So when I was 18 years old, packed my bags a month after graduating high school, and I moved to LA.
Okay.
Yeah, I lived in LA for about 7 years, moved to New York for a year, San Francisco a couple years, and then I met my partner in San Francisco.
Okay.
Who grew up in Warminster, PA, right outside of Philadelphia.
Sure.
And he's like, Josh, I miss my family. I want to move back home, and I'm moving today.
Moving today.
So
I love that.
I once again packed my bags and off to Philadelphia. And I moved to Philadelphia back in, 15 years ago? Lived in Philadelphia up until 8 years ago when we decided to buy our first home in Laurel Springs, New Jersey.
Okay.
And then that's where I'm at right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
That is my hometown, for those of you who know that. Laurel Springs is where I was born and raised, and I love it. I love it. Everyone has their towns. Everyone loves where they were. But I still kind of go back there and have friends that are there. I always look at it as it's a little bit different. You know what I mean? Especially by the railroad tracks down by Crystal Lake. Like, there aren't many places where you can go like, oh, I'm going to go sit down there where Walt Whitman went to go write his poems. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you can see all that. And there's a whole bunch of pollution and shit like that. Yeah. But it's like, it's a cool little town to be
I think, I think the thing that I truly appreciate about Laurel Springs more than anything is that it still kept its small town roots. Mm-hmm. So 3:30, you're going to see kids walking home from school. Yeah. You're going to see kids playing basketball in the street, riding their bikes in the neighborhood, things that were commonplace growing up for us. That you really don't see that much of anymore.
Yeah, in the subdivisions.
There's a bike gang of 6 and 7 year olds that ride all around town. And I think that's the most special thing ever.
That's awesome.
I think it is so amazing. And, I can't speak enough praise. And you hit the nail on the head when you said everyone loves their community. But I really think Laurel Springs is a gem in South Jersey.
I moved down to Franklinville from Laurel Springs. I've only ever lived two places. And I moved down to Franklinville. And I tell my wife all the time, I don't think I'll move back anywhere. I think I'll stay in the farm. I got 5 acres. I don't know my neighbors, but if I ever did move, the only place I would ever move in South Jersey would be Laurel Springs. I'd move back to Laurel Springs. Yeah. Because I just like that. Cape May, later on down the line, where it's low taxes and, whatever, and the school system suck, but it doesn't matter because you don't have kids kind of thing later. But now, the only thing I'd ever do would be move back to Laurel Springs. That's the only choice I'd make. Cause I love it. Yeah, it's cool.
And the neighbors are wonderful. We moved in and everyone was so welcoming. Mm-hmm. Everyone was, just so appreciative to have, a younger couple move into a house and, work on their front yard. That's another thing. You drive down any street in Laurel Springs and you see people out front working on their yard. Yeah. They're trying to make it as nice as possible. Sure. You know, and I think when you do live in a community, in a neighborhood where people take care of not only the inside of their house, but the outside, you know, I think that's really a drawing factor as well.
I joke around about it all the time, but I never locked my door.
Yeah.
You know, like my neighbor to the right of me, they were there for 20 years. My neighbor to the left of me was there for 10 years. The people across the street had a kid my age and they were there for 22 years. Across the street from there, and everyone had been there for like 20 years.
Yeah.
You know, there was no like every 3 years moving in and out, and we didn't lock our doors. And my mom would call because we were latchkey kids. My mom could call and go, "Hey, are the kids home?" You know what I mean? And one of the neighbors would rat us out and be like, "Man, or was this kind of problem?" You know, because we were bad. But it was like a cool neighborhood. And now, like I just joked around. Like I live now. I don't know my neighbors.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know. I don't know who they are. One of them I know because they have kids that are the same age as me. But other than that, I walk down the street and there's 5 houses within like a mile of me. Who knows?
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's cool, but I know, like, I always wonder if my kids are missing out on that neighborhood thing. You know, because there was kids. We played street hockey in the street. We ran around. We played bikes. We did all that stuff. And most kids don't do that anymore. There's no like streetlights are on, you got to be home kind of thing.
I totally get that. Yeah.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about your decision to get into real estate. How did that happen? What are some of the previous jobs that you did, and what led you to the real estate world?
Yeah. So, we'll start with, you know, some of my previous employment. When I moved to Philadelphia, I got into the restaurant industry fairly quickly, worked my way up.
Always good people. Yeah. Everyone that works in restaurants, always good people.
Yeah,
serve the public, cool, down to earth. You don't meet many jerk-offs that worked in restaurants. Like, maybe there's one, but when you serve the public like that, you're normally pretty cool and grounded.
I mean, we've dealt, like, working in the restaurant industry, you've dealt with, like, every type of individual there can be. Mm-hmm. Like, you've had literally every situation. I remember I worked at this Mexican restaurant, very popular spot in South Philly. Mm-hmm. And it was Cinco de Mayo one year. And this girl, she's sitting at the bar, and it's like 5 deep at the bar. It's just like crazy, $3, $5 margaritas. It was just nuts, just crazy. But she's sitting at the bar with her purse. She dropped her purse, and in it was mace, and it exploded. There were hundreds of people in this bar that all got maced. I mean, people were crying, but they still wanted their margaritas. Staff is like walking through the dining room, like tears just shedding from their eyes from the mace, like exploding and macing everyone in the restaurant. I think that was one of the craziest experiences I ever went through. It's like, okay, give them a free margarita.
Yeah,
like, what else are you going to do? They're not leaving.
With a frosty margarita.
Yeah, they're not leaving. Yeah. They're still enjoying the margaritas. Yeah. That was nuts. But yeah, working in the restaurant industry, you know, you've really experienced everything, and it's like what can happen will happen. How this will get messed up. So you got to really, you know, plan in advance. Sure. You got to be like 14 steps ahead, right? But yeah, so I worked in the restaurant industry. My last position was director of operations for a restaurant group. We were located in Philadelphia, New York, and DC. When I first started, we were only in Philadelphia. Okay. So I helped expand to DC, New York, and ultimately, you know, that was such a rewarding job. I'm still super close to everyone that works there.
Okay.
Ultimately, the decision for me to leave the restaurant industry was because my partner and I decided to expand our family.
Okay.
So we opened our home, our Laurel Springs home, to foster. So
awesome.
You know, right now we're fostering 3 little ones. They're amazing, you know?
Yeah.
And they get to be brought up, at least for a short amount of time, hopefully a longer amount of time.
Sure.
You know, we'll see how the courts go. In Laurel Springs. And I think that's such a great, you know, ability to be able to extend, you know, this luxury that we have, our home, you know, to children that don't have one.
Yeah. It's awesome. I don't know if you know Darren Sharper, played for the Green Bay Packers for a little bit.
No.
So I watched something about him. It's like going back 14 or 15 years because I've talked about it with my ex-wife and my current wife. Darren Sharper was adopted by a woman in South Carolina, I think, if I remember the story correctly. She adopted 42 kids fostered and did a bunch of things. And they went through the statistics. And it was like, if you don't find a permanent home by the time you're 9 or 10, you have a 70% chance that you'll never find a permanent home.
Yeah.
If you never find a permanent home, you have a 51% chance of serving federal prison time.
That's crazy.
Crazy. And they had all 48 of these kids that the woman had adopted, and it was like 22 policemen and 4 lawyers and 3 and just she went through, and I watched it and I was like, that woman has impacted the world around her. You know, you throw a rock in the lake and it ripples on out. Her ripples are so far reaching, and Darren Sharper went up getting into some trouble later on, but still, she did an awesome job doing this. And I told my ex-wife and my current wife, I have a bunch of kids myself, but I'm like, eventually when we stop having kids, we're gonna adopt, we're gonna foster, we're gonna do that, because it's just something so sad about someone not having a permanent home. You know what I mean? Not having the love. And if you love, I love kids. If it was up to me, I'd have a kid every 2 years until the day I die. And I'm trying to talk my wife into having another one. She won't do it. But if you have that love inside you, and you can give it to a kid, like the most painful thing to think of is someone who wants love and doesn't get it.
Yeah.
Who wants that nurturing and never gets to receive it. And you can give it away for free. A child.
Yeah. A child.
You know? A child that, like, you can see that they feel hopeless might be the word. I don't really know exactly what the word is. But you see they get that love and they get that nurturing and they get that caring and they just blossom and they turn into these beings that they were supposed to be all along, but they've had to put up all their walls and they've had to protect themselves because they don't have it. So that's awesome. I didn't know that about you. That's awesome to hear.
I had a steadfast, I was always career driven, always, very motivated to climb that ladder, right? And I had to, have a really frank conversation with not only myself, but my partner, but really within myself, like what is my ultimate goal in life? And having a family has always been a goal. We're 2 boys, so we can't have kids of our own.
Sure.
Fostering.
Yeah, medicine's getting pretty good now. You can't do it yet, but who knows? 5 years from now, you don't know.
Fostering was the alternative that we had, and, it was either me give up my career and go a different route, which is what we ultimately chose, or him, which he's very passionate about what he does. He's in retail, great job, great guy, still gives him family time.
Sure.
The restaurant industry didn't allow me to have any family time, and that was... really the pivotal point in not only my professional life, but my personal life as well. The moment to expand our family.
Nice, that's awesome. Yeah. And how did you decide on real estate? Was it someone that that said, I do this, like you watch someone and saw it, or you just...
Yeah, so a little bit of that. When I was making this decision, I'm thinking about like all my skills that I have acquired, everything that I've done in the past. And, there's a lot of correlation between real estate and the restaurant industry. Sure. I mean, it's, selling homes and selling food, totally different, but, a lot of the skills are still transferable. So that was one factor. Another factor that, really played a big moment, I called the agent that sold us our home in Laurel Springs.
Okay.
Just had a frank conversation with her. Marianne, she's no longer doing it, real estate. She retired. But I, had the conversation. Marianne, this is what I'm thinking. Can you, give me some ins and outs? What is a day in the life? Because I don't think a lot of people really understand what real estate agents do.
They watch like HGTV or they watch something and they're like, oh, this is a glamorous job,
Yep. Love it or list it. No,
sure.
It's not that. There's so much more in the back end that's involved. But I had that conversation with her. I grew up with one of my really good friends back in Ohio. She is an agent as well. So I had a conversation with her. And, I I thought about my home buying experience. Marianne did such a wonderful job. She made it so easy. She really guided us through the process, and it was so easy. I mean, it was easy for us, wasn't easy for her. We definitely saw about 3 homes with her.
So you would hate yourself as a client, is that what you're saying?
I would hate myself. Really kind of vet myself. But she was so graceful throughout the whole experience.
Sure.
And, I wanted to emulate that. And a lot of my friends had such bad horror stories with buying homes.
Yeah.
I didn't understand, how is it that difficult to buy a home? Was your agent not communicative? What was the situation? And I want to be that resource for my clients.
Sure.
I want to be that resource, for everyone. If I don't have an answer, I'm not going to BS you and say, this is the fact. Yeah. That's not true. I never want to lie or mislead. I want to, hold the integrity that I have. And if I don't know an answer, I'm going to get it for you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make sure that is a correct answer. I'm going to guide you throughout the whole experience. And that's really, where I've started to build my business is, I'm not here to buy and sell a home for you. I'm here to guide and direct you to make a sound investment. I have one client who's got a decent budget. We've been working since August looking at homes. And actually this past weekend we went out. Their availability is a little tight. So, it seems like a long time since August, but, going a couple times a month to see different homes. She fell in love with one home. It was listed for, a hefty price. And I did the comps in the area, and I could not justify her paying that price.
Sure.
She would never get the return on investment within the next, couple years. So I think guiding your clients in that direction as well, this is a sound investment, we should move forward, or we can put an offer at this price, but really any more than that, you're just paying for no investment, no return on value. You know,
a lot of people won't do that either. A lot of people won't have that conversation. A lot of people just say, "Oh, that's a bigger commission for me. Great, let's do that."
Exactly. I think when there's so many agents out there, and actually one of the facts that just came out that I was kind of shocked by. 40% of real estate agents did not sell a home last year.
Yeah.
70% of agents sold 4 or fewer homes. It might have been 6 or fewer homes. And that gives 30% of agents that sold 6 or more homes. 30% of agents.
Right.
That is just crazy to me.
Yeah.
But, I think a lot of people are just chasing that commission, and when you're not chasing the commission, when you're actually there to help your client make a sound decision, you're going to do better. You're going to be able to provide that much needed service.
Nice.
Mark McKenna, my team lead, always emphasizes, you got to bring value. You got to bring value. If you're not bringing value, then you're literally just signing documents and opening doors.
Yeah.
I do not want to be that agent that just sends contracts and open doors, because that gives the whole real estate sector a bad name.
Awesome. We're going to take a quick cut real quick because we don't want to go over our time slot, but I have 2 more questions that I want to ask you, and we're going to wind up going over it. So we're going to cut here, and we're going to come right back and finish up with the final 2 questions. Welcome back. Final 2 questions with Josh here. The first one we're going to is we want to talk a little bit about future. Because that's important. It's important to have goals, and it's important to have a vision. So give us a couple things from your vision board, your checklist. We'll go to, we're really almost in March of 2026. That's where we're moving forward to right now. Tell me some things that you're going to accomplish between now and then. What are some visions, both business-wise and personal? What do you want to do?
Yeah, so, hopefully, with it personal anyway, some of the foster children that we have right now, hopefully they're our children. We, adopted them. Permanently. That would be amazing. That would be, wonderful. If not, I think we're always going to have a full house full of children.
Sure.
Until we find the ones that, finally stick. So that's in 2026 personal. It's hard for me to see anything else outside of that personal in my life because we're so driven and we've made so many life adjustments in order to open our home and have those kids. So my eye is on the prize with that one.
Okay.
As far as professional, I think real estate is the best investment anyone can do. Period. Period. If you want to grow generational wealth, if you want to grow your own personal wealth, invest in real estate.
Sure.
It's always going to increase in value. So 2026, I would hope to have 1 or 2 investment properties.
Okay.
I think, doing anything outside of that goal would be silly as a real estate agent. I got to practice what I preach, I would love to have 1 to 2 investment properties at that time. And then, I think I'm very fortunate to have joined Pat McKenna Realtors and met Mark McKenna. He's one of the top agents, not only in New Jersey, but in the entire country.
Yeah.
And to have him as a mentor, a direct mentor, I could call him right now and I'll answer his phone.
Yeah.
To have him as a mentor is amazing. I think maybe if you had asked me previously, even when I first started or even 3 months ago, where do I see myself in 2, 3, 4, 5 years? I would have said to have a full team of agents working, under me. I don't really see that as my goal right now. I think Mark is a phenomenal team lead. If he expands and, the opportunity to run one of his offices came available, I would love to do that.
Sure.
But I'm very happy with being under the Pat McKenna Realtors team with EXP. There's just so many benefits to...
Mark's a great dude.
Great guy.
I don't know, did you watch the interview that I did with Mark when he was on here?
No, I didn't.
So, Mark and I've known Mark since before he was a realtor.
Yeah.
His brother, Pat Jr., never got into real estate. He owned a pizza place that I worked at in 1992.
Okay.
And Mark used to work the weekends.
Oh, my God.
In the pizza oven. So we used to work at the pizza shop together. And he was getting his license and doing everything. And such a really good dude. And I've known him for years. And I'm in his fantasy football league. And just a really good guy. And when he was talking to us about doing the mentoring thing and really expanding. Because they were the largest independent realtor in the state of New Jersey.
Yeah.
They did more transactions than any small town real estate company. When he was doing the EXP thing and he was like, I think I want to train 100 agents. I was like, I don't think there's anyone better to do that than you. And he was talking, he talked about it on the air when we were here about his plans for mentoring and doing stuff. And I was like, perfect.
When did you do that interview?
2 years ago.
Well, he followed through with his plan. I mean, we have a transaction coordinator, we have a social media person, we have a videographer, we have Mark as our team lead, we've got a buyer's guide, so someone that is literally there. If I have a buyer that I'm representing, any questions regarding buyer contracts or, hey, this came up, he's got a resource for all of us. That's awesome. For every facet of the transaction.
Yeah, that's crazy.
For everything. Yeah. So he definitely followed through with that.
That's awesome.
And to have, again, that mentor, someone that has a plan, sticks to his plan, makes me want to have a plan and stick to my plan, So, I mean, back to your original question, I think what my ultimate professional goal, I live in Laurel Springs. We talked about it a few times already. I want to be the go-to agent in Laurel Springs.
Sure.
I want everyone to know, hey, I have a real estate question. Let me call Josh.
Right.
And not even pertaining to necessarily buying or selling your home, but one of my neighbors who knows I'm an agent, we've been friends pretty much since we moved to Laurel Springs, call me, hey, I'm thinking of putting solar on. How will that affect my home value?
Right.
What is the benefit of leasing versus buying outright? And I was able to walk him through that. Is that necessarily pertaining exactly to selling his home? No. But it's a general
resource,
question
sure,
about the home.
Yeah.
And that would be my ultimate goal.
Yeah.
You know, to be that go-to resource for Laurel Springs, Clementon, just our surrounding area.
Right.
If anyone has a question. If you need a painter, I have a painter.
Right.
If you need a roofer, I have a roofer. You know, to be that resource that's already vetted.
Sure. It's huge. And that always turns into business. But the reality is, you know, you put good energy out, it comes back to you.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Exactly.
All right. Your last business question. Real estate is tough, stressful. What do you do for your mental health, whether it's yoga, meditation, podcast, whatever? What do you do to keep you mentally and spiritually at the top of your game?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So yeah, real estate can be stressful. I mean, when you're an agent, you know, you have to keep your pipeline going. You know, different contacts, clients that you're working with. I actually refer to my clients as partners because we're, you know, in a partnership in this, you know, process.
Sure.
So what do I do to, you know, kind of mentally clear myself? I listen to a lot of podcasts. I try to educate myself on not just real estate specific items, but other things that I'm interested in, like gardening. I love gardening. When we bought our house, our backyard was a mud pit. It was literally a mud pit. There were like 5 trees, couldn't grow grass. We had our housewarming party, and we do have a pool in our backyard, had a housewarming party. Everyone was covered in mud. They were just all covered in mud. So we completely landscaped the backyard. I did it all by hand. You know, I think living in Laurel Springs as well, it's such a earthy, like artsy community. So I like to garden. I like to spend time outside.
Do you do vegetables or you do flowers or what?
So I never did vegetables until last year when we fostered. I'm like, I have kids. They need to know where our food comes from.
Right.
So I took this little section of my backyard and I made an entire garden. We grew tomatoes, we grew cucumbers, jalapenos, sunflowers that grew like 20 feet tall. I swear to God, they were like 20 feet tall. But yeah, I definitely want to garden, like actual vegetables and fruits and you know, stuff that we can harvest and eat, especially with the kids, because they need to know where our food comes from. You know, your food comes from the grocery store, but it doesn't really come from the grocery store. And especially, you know, partnering that with my previous experience in the restaurant industry, you know, I think it's just something very special to be able to, you know, go in your backyard and just pick something and eat it right there. You know, I think that's something that every kid should be able to enjoy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, your last question that we're going with. You get to spend a half an hour with any person that's ever lived. Ooh. Famous or unfamous, alive or dead, any person that's ever walked the earth. Who would it be? And give me 1 or 2 questions that you would ask them.
Yeah, that is... that's a tough one. I think I think to be just fully honest, it would be my dad who passed away a few years ago because of cancer. Okay. I would just love to sit down with him for another half hour, but I think that's an obvious, you know, go-to outside of, you know, my father. I would probably have to really think about that. Anyone famous or not famous from any point of time that I would love to sit down for a half hour with. Man, that's really tough. You threw me off guard.
Yeah. I mean, listen, your dad is a great answer. You know what I mean? Like, that's really, you know, that shows where you're at. Like some that's a lot of not that exact answer, but we've had varying answers to go up for like John F. Kennedy to Jesus to more than one person has said their mom or dad that recently had passed away. So that's an honest answer. Like, that's really where it is, and that's how.
But I think you kind of want a different answer with that.
No, that's fine. Your dad's a good one.
Yeah.
If you want to go famous, you can go famous. But is there anyone like that you like kind of maybe not hero worship, but really looked up to when you were growing up, or someone that really strikes a chord, even a podcaster that you think like, I really relate to that guy, or anything like that?
I think someone that I would love to sit down with and have a conversation with, probably Stephen Hawking, to be honest. I mean, I don't know, like,
a genius.
Yeah, I mean, what a phenomenal brain that man has.
Yeah.
I think that would be a cool conversation. Just, I'm obsessed with astronomy and, black holes and, event horizon and everything like that. So, like, to talk to the man that, like, actually, like, in his brain can conceptualize, space, I think that would be amazing.
That'd be a pretty crazy
would be
conversation.
Awesome. Yeah. I think that would be cool.
That's really
and from what I understand about Stephen Hawking, like, he was able to dumb things down, because by no means am I like a genius at all. Here I am selling homes, but he would be able to, like, really converse about different things. I think
he wouldn't talk to you like a scientist and blah, 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 and you understand what it is. Yeah. Awesome.
Maybe Stephen Hawking.
Josh, thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you.
We'll be back with the next guest on Mr. Mortgage's Neighborhood.